Robin Williams passed away, and just your little reaction there showed that was the world's reaction. Robin Williams committed suicide a few days ago. He was under supposedly severe depression in the past, I guess, weeks from people that were close to him. And this one hit a lot of people a lot worse than I figured it would, because we're at the point now where suicides and people ODing, it's happening a lot, or tragic deaths. But this one, it just comes. It's more tragic just because Robin Williams is a guy. I hate to say and I'm tired of saying the last guy you'd expect to do something like this, but he's the last guy you expected to do something like this. Then it happened, and a lot of people were just going nuts about it, especially comedians. Jim Norton, who's a really good comedian, he's been on the Jay Leno show, he's on Opie and Anthony, really hit him hard, like really hard. Because to him, Robin Williams was a guy that went on his way to be nice to everyone. He was one of those guys that when he showed up he still worked out material sometimes at comedy clubs. He'd show up, and when he talked to other comedians, he wouldn't talk down to them or try to make himself the center of attention, even though everyone at the table knows, holy shit, this is Robin Williams. He was a guy that just wanted to be part of the group and, you know what I mean, not put himself above. That's the type of guy he was, according to everyone that knew him. He was just so giving and just... So that's why a lot of people are upset. Even a guy like Bill Corbett, who was Crow on Mr. Science Theory, the second Crow, and Riff Tracks, a guy that his Twitter feed is always jokes. There's never anything serious. He comes out, I was shocked to see it, he comes out admitting from this his own depression and his own struggles with depression because of Robin Williams dying. That's how much this has hit people more than usual. And it's just sad. I mean, I'm tired of talking about people dying like this. That's the only thing I can say. Like, what else can you say about something like this?
I guess that's... I have to be careful how I word things, or else I'm not going to make it through the segment. Robin Williams, as an actor, was never someone that I particularly followed. Although... I did sure as shit love Mork and Mindy when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. That was a great one.
But as an actor, didn't particularly follow him. As a comedian, I thought he was pretty funny. I found him very unique as a person. Here was a guy who didn't worry about what other people thought was interesting or cool.
Mm-hmm.
He named his daughter Zelda after Princess Zelda. If you watch 1 Hour Photo, there are a number of Evangelion figurines in it, which is an important sort of story to me. And those are his figurines. He was a massive fan of that anime. I just can't... Maybe it's things in my life over the past 6 months. I can't talk about suicide anymore. I can't do it. I just want to say that there is still this prevailing theme that anyone who kills themselves is being selfish or taking the selfish way out, and they're not. If that is your response to someone killing themselves, then you have never known depression. Because here was a man who had people around him at all times that loved him. Here was a man who had money.
Top of his game.
A man who had respect. A man who could have had anything he wanted in his life. And what he wanted most in his life was to end it. That goes against basic self-preservation. So when you have a friend who is depressed, please don't tell them to cheer up. Just be with them. Don't point out all the good in their life, because you're just going to make matters. You're going to make them feel even shittier, because they know what they have in their life that is good. And when you point that out, when you rub in someone's face everything good they have in their life, they feel even worse because you have made them feel like they are not appreciating it. And it's not that. This is a disease. It is an illness. It attacks your brain and your body, and it makes you think in ways that you shouldn't think. So I can't keep asking for open dialogue, or I can constantly keep asking for open dialogue on this every time suicide comes up. If you need someone, ask for someone. Call a suicide helpline, but don't think that you can fix someone's depression with simple words. You have to understand that on their side, what you might be saying to cheer a person up could potentially be making the problem worse.
I think
that's all I got to say.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think that's people's obviously that your natural reaction. Because how else do you make someone feel better? But yeah, what it comes down to though, what people understand is it's if it's chemicals misfiring in your head, chemical imbalances, words aren't going to change that. Words aren't going to change. Basically, how you're interpreting stimulus is totally not wired like the way it should be. That's what a lot of this happens. So with Robin Williams, I think it's also compounded by the fact that, according to a lot of people, and it's well known, he was a drug user for a long time. He was a substance abuser, and he was clean for a very long time. Supposedly, he was clean for about 20 years, from about the mid-'80s up until, I guess, around 2005, 2006. I've been seeing reports. And then something happened where he fell off the wagon. And so you compound substance abuse problems with depression, that's tough. That's really tough. And there are people that, fortunately, I was never the type of person that got addicted to alcohol or any sort of drugs with that sort of addicted personality. But I can understand how difficult that would be. And compounded with depression. And I mean, he had a loving family and a loving wife. And yeah, it gets to the point where your mind doesn't matter to you anymore. Which again, it's a big shame. Big shame. In terms of his actual comedy versus acting, I was personally never a huge fan of his comedy outside of stuff from like Aladdin, where he was brilliant as the voice of the genie. It was actually his acting that sort of drew me into him. And good comedians can be good actors. We always spoke about how comedy is the most difficult form of acting. It really is. But going back to stuff from the 80s and 90s, and I really it's really a shame, and Frank's going to get on me because Frank hasn't found out this yet. Frank loves Dead Poets Society. And it's a movie that I've only seen bits and pieces of, and it's an absolute shame that I've never actually seen it, and now I have to see his performance. A movie like Good Morning Vietnam, which I grew up on, and such a brilliant performance, not just because he gets in and probably mostly improvs all his great radio lines. It's the dramatic part of that movie which was so good, because here's a guy that's trying to get along in Vietnam, and he befriends a kid, a teenager, who ends up being part of the Viet Cong, and having to deal with that, and also getting along with his sister, and that's a lot more complicated than what it would seem. And the way he just portrays the whole situation, you think Good Morning Vietnam is a comedy. It's not. It's a drama. It's a serious one. Movies like World According to Garp. These are movies that you hear about all the time, that these are great movies. And then Awakenings. Cadillac Man, a movie, again, that I used to watch as a kid, where he plays a sleazy sort of just used car salesman, but the undertone to that is that his personal life is absolutely falling apart underneath that. So these are roles that... The Fisher King. I mean, these are roles that you think of him as, oh, he's a comedian. These are great acting roles. These are roles that you put these roles with any other actor, you would say this is a great actor. Outside of even stuff like Mrs. Doubtfire. Outside of stuff like Jumanji. Even great performances in movies like Birdcage that I saw in high school. These are just great acting performances, not even comedy. He was even great in an episode of Law and Order SVU that I saw, I think it was from a couple years ago, where he just played this sort of maniac guy seeking revenge, and he was like a bomb maker. He was like he was playing like the Joker, but it was just a great performance on TV. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and we talked about this before, is that unfortunately this comes with a lot of stuff with artists and actors, comedians. A lot of this comes from pain. A lot of the ability to emote, to get in touch with human nature. Unfortunately, and I guess it's a blessing and a curse. It comes from human pain. That's the best way you can put it, because a lot of the great comedians, great actors, there's a lot of messed up stuff going on inside of them, and it's unfortunate. And so that's why when Jim Norton was commenting on this, he was obviously very upset. But he's almost like, am I even? He said to himself, it's not like I could even be surprised after finding out about it, that he was in so much pain. It's like I can't be surprised anymore. When he's personally known 8 comedians that have killed themselves in his life. Ray Combs was on Family Feud, was killed themselves. Freddie Prinze in the 70s was a big comedian in the 70s, killed himself. It's just unfortunate. It really is. Yeah, so the best thing I can do, Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller said it best. The best way to remember Robin Williams is remember just how funny he was. And that's the one thing I do. I remember how funny he was and how great an actor he was. And that's all I can say. Go out and watch some of his performances, especially the ones in the movies I talked about that aren't more of his well-known stuff. Yeah, go watch Aladdin. Go watch Mrs. Doubtfire. But go back and watch Cadillac Man. Go back and watch Good Morning Vietnam. Go back and watch The World According to Garp. And see some of the soul inside the man and what allowed his performances to come out, I guess.